We've talked about the cheapest and we've talked about the hypothetically most useful Apple ecosystem. Today, let's talk about what I think is the best working from home ecosystem for either the student taking at-home classes or an office worker finding themselves with PJ pants as their professional wardrobe. Ask me what I wear all day long. So if you spend your days working from your house, what are these specific pieces of tech that I would recommend? Let's find out. And while we're finding out, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, me. I've started a new project over on Instagram where I talk about cheap tech and accessories. This isn't a promise to make videos in the future. There are already a ton of cool shorts over there for you to check out. It's called Reviewing the Cheapest, and I'll leave a link for that in the description below. Absolutely, go check it out. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. For today, this ecosystem is not going to be built from the most expensive nor the cheapest tech that Apple produces. I'm going to give you a selection of tech that perfectly fits for somebody that's got to set up their own space for work. Your office or the place you work might or might not be assisting you with buying the equipment, so I will try to err more on the side of budget options where available, but it's not all going to be budget. Let's start with my philosophy of a working from home setup. I've been working from my home office for almost 2 years at this point, doing both my YouTube work that you see here and doing my regular day job as a project manager. So making sure that I can balance the both of them out is the most important part by far. And when I talk about balancing, what I really mean is ease of use of the tech and of moving between the tech. We're not talking about power today. If you are a working from home coder or Pixar animator, sorry, we'll probably have to make a separate video for you. First up in the items for the working from home professional or student is the perfect working from home computer, the M1 Mac Mini. I shouldn't have to sing the praises of this computer too much because I've talked about this a ton since it was released over a year ago. What this gives you is a small, reasonably priced desktop computer that doesn't need a huge desk, doesn't need a huge table to fit, and it doesn't need a huge investment to get started. And what it's great is when you're stuck next to it all day long, it doesn't make a ton of noise throughout a day of Excel manipulation. This small computer will cost you $699 if you buy it brand new from Apple. You can also find it for around $619 on Amazon, or even under $600 if you buy it refurbished from Apple. For that price, you'll get the 8-core M1 standard processor, 8 gigabytes of unified memory, that's what Apple calls RAM, and a 256 gigabyte solid state drive. Now, it's not the flashiest of all the Apple specs, but it's a surprisingly robust computer. And as a personal note, I use this Mac Mini as my primary computer for practically everything I do. And yes, that's despite having all the new and shiny MacBooks. There is just something about this machine that makes it the easiest and most useful computer that Apple makes. For setting up your home office, you get all sorts of useful inputs on the back of the Mac Mini. So unlike other Mac computers, you do not have to buy a single extra adapter or dongle to make it work. You get HDMI, you get Thunderbolt 3, you get Ethernet, USB-A, and a headphone jack. For the stay-at-home worker, that's a perfect setup. And I know I say perfect a lot in the titles because that's what, drives engagement on YouTube. But I'm dead serious when I say this is a perfect setup. You'll be able to plug in your keyboard and mouse through the USB-A. You'll be able to connect your monitor either with a USB-C to DisplayPort cable or a cheap, readily available HDMI cable. Plus, and one of the things that I like the most, it has either a 1 or 10 gigabit Ethernet option available if you need to use it because your work's VPN sometimes doesn't play nice with your home's Wi-Fi. Much like the PJ comment, ask me how often my work's VPN does not like to play nice with my Wi-Fi. This is just a nice little package that delivers a ton of value, but you're not going to have to spend too much to get this. Power-wise, this will do everything you could want from a standard computer. Heck, it has more power in its $600 configuration than my fully kitted out i9 MacBook Pro from 2019 did, and that thing cost like 5.3 times as much as the Mac Mini. I'm telling you, don't worry about the power of this computer unless you absolutely have to have the biggest, beefiest machine because you're that Pixar editor that this video is not for, by the way. Then I would point you back over to my most useful ecosystem, and okay, we'll probably do a most powerful ecosystem video here in the coming weeks. Now that is the overall home computer, but even in a working from home situation, sometimes you will probably need to sync up with your team in person from time to time, or sometimes you'll need to do some work from the road, and here's probably going to be the most controversial pick for this list. I'm going to go with the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro. Now I was seriously considering putting the M1 MacBook Air in this slot because it's like the perfect travel computer, but in my experience of working from home, I have traveled for work, but it hasn't been that much, and having two Macs while working from home means one of them is just gonna collect dust. I don't really recommend the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro all that often, so it was pretty striking to me that this ended up being the best choice. an iPad and a MacBook together are a far better pair than a Mac and another Mac. If you find yourself traveling for work more than, let's say, 50% of the time, or you find yourself traveling once a week or more, I would substitute the iPad Pro out for a MacBook Air. If you find yourself home all of the time or the majority of your time, then go with the iPad because it's a better option. The base model M1 Pro 12.9-inch iPad will run you $1099. That gets you 128 gigabytes of storage, the M1 processor, and 8 gigabytes of RAM. But don't worry about that because any amount of RAM is enough RAM for an iPad. Real key features and reasons to go with the Pro is the very nice XDR display, touchscreen interface, the Magic Keyboard accessory, and the ultra wide angle front-facing camera. Combine that together, yes, it's expensive. The MacBook Air is cheaper in just about every single way compared to the iPad Pro. But two factors really make me point this to you as a companion work travel computer. One, the touchscreen is amazing. It's so nice to be able to do either mouse and keyboard inputs or just tap on what you want. Most software these days is starting to move into the realm of being touch enabled even when it's on a standard computer, so being able to take advantage of that is amazing. Two, that ultra wide angle camera is the perfect teleconferencing camera, either from your home office or from like anywhere on the planet. From coffee shop to shared workspace, this is the ultimate tool for both working by yourself or working with a whole team that needs to fit just onto this little camera. You could get the same thing from the iPad mini, but again, that's not something that I would use as a full-on work computer because of the smallness of the screen and you lack the Magic Keyboard. It's a great companion to a laptop if you have a laptop, but it's hard to recommend it by itself. Plus, like I said, the iPad Pro can use the Apple Magic Keyboard, which is the single best tech accessory ever made. From my vantage point, that's not an opinion, that's not hyperbole, that's a statement of fact. It won't turn your iPad into a laptop, but it will give you most of what you need from a laptop for either taking school notes, watching lectures through it, or if you happen to be the person stuck taking minutes for the office meeting, this will work great. And being stuck as the person taking the office minutes sucks. The keys are great. It's one of the best typing experiences that you'll get on any mobile device, and it gives you an additional USB-C port for charging the iPad if you don't have a cable just hanging out the side. You can also use the Apple Pencil with the iPad Pro if you are somebody that is trying to go fully without making paper waste. And this new version and the new iPad display, it's so accurate that I bet you could easily make the transition to fully digital notes. I don't know that I'm personally ready to do that, but I'm going to make an effort this year to start moving that way as soon as possible. Something that I don't think the iPad gets enough credit for, and the specific reason I selected the 12.9-inch version compared to the 11-inch version, is the iPad is like the perfect travel whiteboard. I don't know if this is something everybody does, but I don't consider a plan or an idea even started until it's up on a whiteboard. Being able to visualize your thought process is the perfect productivity hack, and it allows you to get it all out in a place that you can continue to reference. And you could even have a system to make drawings that somebody else can understand so they can come in and work off your whiteboard too. The best plans that I've ever come up with in my life were all started and worked from a whiteboard. But unless you own the coffee shop that you find yourself at, bringing a huge board is probably frowned upon, but this iPad, with or without the pencil, can do all of that for you while fitting in a backpack. Fam, it's so good. Next up, we are going to need some kind of a phone because while 90% of my meetings occur in Teams, WebEx, or Zoom, some folks will still want me to dial into a conference like it's 1997. Did Final Fantasy VII just get released because we're dialing into this meeting? For that, I'm going to recommend the iPhone 13 mini. That might be surprising because I talk regularly about how important battery life is to the working professional, but again, this is a working from home or student from home setup. You're probably always going to be within feet of a wall outlet at any given moment, so battery life here isn't as striking of a need. The iPhone 13 mini comes in at $699, making it the cheapest of all the new iPhones. You will get a choice of 5 colors and also 128 gigabytes of storage and the new A15 processor. This phone is for real. You'll get most of the same functionality that you would from the top of the line phone that costs almost twice as much, but much like the Mac Mini, it'll fit almost anywhere, and it just will not get in your way. As a phone that was made after 2005, it works perfectly well for those rare but important dial-in meetings. It has a processor that could quite literally launch a satellite into space, and the cameras on this phone are so good, you don't need to buy a dedicated camera if you happen to be in a product sales job. Lighting is important if you are taking pictures of your products to upload to the internet, and this camera with its pretty sizable sensor has got you covered. There isn't much else to talk about here other than because you've got the rest of this setup, as it is all Apple, this will perfectly interact with the iPad or the Mac for dropping files, sharing notes with teammates, and just being an overall hyperly convenient little phone platform that can share its wireless spot with the iPad, because you probably didn't want to spend the extra money to get the 5G version of the iPad Pro. The next thing on this list are the AirPods Pro. I think these are hands down the best headphones that you can get, period, and they help both the home office and travel office workers so much that I think they are a cornerstone of any ecosystem, regardless if it's Apple, Windows, Android, whatever. The noise cancellation is great for letting you focus on the task at hand, because the biggest enemy of my productivity is not any work monster. It's me. It's YouTube, TikTok, and other things that seek to distract me. Actually, I guess if we're being fully open and honest with each other, if something is distracting me, chances are it's a camera store's website, because I have a weakness for looking at cameras online. I'm not perfect. I'm a person too. These AirPods will pair instantly to any of the devices that we've already talked about. They look goofy, but they're so iconic at this point and everybody wears them, nobody's gonna care. The audio quality is good enough, and their built-in mics will sound better than anything else that we've talked about so far today, unless you are holding the phone or iPad right up to your face. But nobody does that anymore. I can't remember the last time I actually held a phone up to my face to talk. It's been a while. As far as the whole ecosystem goes, that's it. I don't think you need an Apple Watch for working from home unless it's to check notifications, but if you are working from home, nobody will see when you tap your phone for the 10th time while someone else talks about a project that doesn't involve yours, but you need to be in the meeting regardless. So if you want to watch for running or something like that, go ahead and get the Apple Watch, but I don't consider it part of this system. In total, this perfect working from home system will run you about $2,700, which is a lot. It's not like there's no justification there. That's just a lot of money. So I would say don't buy this all at once. You can build out to this. The good news is that this ecosystem will still be roughly the same even as some of these devices are replaced. You could just swap out the M1 iPad Pro for whatever the latest one is when it comes out, or you could continue to get the older one and save some money. Get the Mac Mini and the iPhone first, and then the other stuff will come as you figure out your actual need for it. But what about you? What do you think is the perfect working from home Apple ecosystem? I would love to hear your opinions down in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see what I think is the best cheap Apple ecosystem, good news, you can find that video by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.